Hello everybody, and thanks for joining me again for Third Act Stories. Now, I don't normally do how-to videos. That's not my expertise. There are guys that do especially these model kits. Mark Myers, he's the guy. Those are the professionals. They do these things for hire. I just do them for fun and for hobbies. My normal thing here is to talk about stories in my third act. But since there's such an interest in these things, and a lot of you guys apparently are out there building them, I figured I'd talk about painting. You know, a big model kit or anything that you do, color and painting, that's really kind of the selling point for a lot of them. This is not my first one. This is the second one that I did. The first 1/350th Polar Lights Enterprise, I did in a pre-Christopher Pike version, pre-pilot version. I tried to do something that I thought was a little more industrial. I imagined that the TV show was actually produced in the 50s, and what would the ship look like? I called it my Captain April version of the Enterprise. But when I ended up doing this one, I tried to do it as close to the television, the production model of it, and I tried to paint it that way. I ended up painting it a little bit darker than what everyone calls for, and that's not the reason I'm doing another one. I'm doing another one because of this reason. These things are noisy. I don't know if you can hear them or not, but if I have a party and have people over and I turn the lights on these things, I've got a room in the back where I've got them displayed. And if I turn the lights on, they make these horrible noises. And I know there's a lot of ways you can make these things quieter. Believe it or not, I'm not an avid modeler. I am, I guess, but I'm not a fanatical modeler, and I'm not going to mess with this stuff. This is the Polar Lights lighting kit. And to be honest with you, the first time I put it in the model, after a week or two, all the connections started falling apart. These motors stopped working. If you don't mind, I'm going to turn this thing off. But anyway, all that stuff stopped working, and I luckily used Tester's model glue, and the thing popped apart. So I popped it all apart, resoldered all the connections, fixed the engines, and now the thing works. And I'm going to put it up in a shelf someplace and maybe sell it someday. The first one I did, I was able to sell for like 6 times what I paid for it. And again, don't send me emails asking me to build these things. That's not my business. That's not my interest. That's not my vocation. I'm just building another one for me that I can put on a shelf and I can light, and it won't make these noisy sounds. I'm not putting the fan blades in. Anyway, this one originally had the grid lines on it. They don't make those anymore like that. I kind of like the grid lines, not just because it helped me mask off different parts. Like I masked off the sensor grid up front here, or the rust ring. I masked that off, spray painted it with a kind of a champagne colored car paint. That's the other thing. I'm using only spray paints on these things. I'm not an airbrush guy. I never got good at that. I don't have the equipment. I don't have the setup, and I'm lazy. So I'm using off-the-shelf spray paints. That might be of interest to some of you also. In the one I'm currently getting ready to build, I'll tell you what colors I'm using because they're more accurate than this. If you notice, it's got some weathering on it. It's got the orange nacelle caps, which I sprayed a translucent orange on the inside of it. This one has a sort of a semi-gloss final coat on it. I sort of like that. In person, it looks good. On camera, it probably doesn't look all that good. It ends up holding the decals on. It's got several things that aren't, again, 100% accurate. The color, for one. The other thing is the bridge is pretty detailed out. On the one I'm going to build, I'm just going to have a white dome on it that matches the original movie prop a little closer. Anyway, so that's this one. Again, it's just a little darker. And to show you that, I'm going to show you the beginnings of my next version. Okay, this is the next one I'm working on. And you can see the color of it is significantly lighter than this one. And I don't have it all put together. I do have all the lighting in this saucer, and I've got it glued together. If you notice, what I've done is I painted it the light Luftwaffe blue, which is almost the exact same color. You can see here I didn't paint this part, but I did paint this part, and it's the same color as the kit comes, which is pretty accurate for the Smithsonian model from what I've seen. Now, if you look at the Smithsonian model, the photographs of it, it looks to me, to my eye, like the top of this saucer has a darker green tint to it than the rest of it. The B and C deck here is a little lighter. I don't know if that's really the way it is because I haven't been to the Smithsonian yet to look at it, which I will do. I don't know if I'll film it, but I'm going to go there at some point, maybe this year. To me, it would make sense production-wise because this top flat surface is getting most of the studio lights, and those studio lights were pretty intense back then. And if you were going to even out the color of something, you'd want this a little darker than everything else on it. The other reason is this is the only part of the original model that has not been restored, so maybe it's gotten a little dark over time. I'm not sure. But one thing is, it does have a lot of weathering in here. And this is my first pass on color. I just basically sprayed it all the Luftwaffe light blue. And then I got a gray color. In fact, let me go get the color so I can tell you exactly what I've got. Hold it right there. And I'm back. Okay, so like I say, I'm using all off-the-shelf spray paint. And this, I used a little Tamiya translucent green to do the under saucer dome. I've seen photographs of it where it's a slight green tint, and I wanted to do that on this one. So anyway, I'm going to paint the entire body of this thing Luftwaffe light blue AS5 by Tamiya. That seems to match the color pretty well. And then I used an AS11 medium sea gray from Tamiya, and I just lightly sprayed a little bit of the start of this weathering ring in here. I did it on the top. I also did it on the bottom, as you can see here. Dust. But I've noticed in a lot of these old 60s television shows, if they used any kind of model like this, they would add extra paint to give it kind of a detail. I used a Color Max Krylon Gloss Blue Ocean Breeze, which of course every Starship has Gloss Blue Ocean Breeze on it. It's a little more green than what I expected, but everything I looked at said it needed to go a little more green. My tendency was to make it a little on the gray-blue side, but that's not what it is. It's got a little bit of teal in it. So anyway, that's this little forward part here. So anyway, I've lit this thing. I've got all the lights and everything on the inside. In fact, I can let you take a look at it. I've got a Tenna Controls navigation light blinking here. I haven't put these little pieces in here because I'm going to sand them down and get them to a nice frosted color. But everything on the inside is painted white. And then I've got LED clusters, and they pretty much light up the inside pretty well. I've probably got 3 or 4 of them up here in the top. And then on the little neck here, I've gone in and painted this little one a little kind of a more yellowy color and, you know, kind of put some detail in there. Now, as you can see, I've got some tape around here. What I'm going to do, and what needs to be done, is Next step is there's a big gap around here. It doesn't matter how good you glue this thing. And I've started using a CA glue that really is a lot tighter, glues the plastic together a lot better. And the next thing I'm going to do here is go and fill this in and sand it off. And if you notice, if you look closely, when they took the grid lines off this thing, they left the grid lines on the edge here. So I'm filling all that in, getting rid of that seam, and light blocking it. That's one of the problems with this one, is it tends to have a little light leak here and there. So I'm not going to lay it in too thick. I'm going to do it nice and thin, then sand it down. I've got my windows covered, and then I'm just going to spritz it with a little more of that Luftwaffe blue, and hopefully that'll be done. And then the next step will be weathering. So let's see how I do on the touch-up, and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, I'm back. And as you can see, I've got hopefully a nice edge on that. I puttied it all up, taped it first, puttied it up, sanded it, and then took off my masking material. And now I have something I can get started with. And I'm going to use colored pencils. I'm going to try pastels. Haven't tried that before. And then I'm going to use some graphite, just regular woodless pencil graphite. And that kind of really does a good job with the weathering. So let's get into it, see what happens. So the first thing I'm going to try is these pastels. I have never used these before, so I don't know how they're going to work. So I'm just going to put a couple of soft streaks in here, work them in with my finger. Yeah, they look pretty good. They look pretty good to me. I noticed on the original ship, there's a lot of green in the edge of the saucer. You have to really work it in there to kind of get rid of the streak and blend it in. Yeah, I like that. I like that. That's going to give me some something to work with. But you can leave some of the streak in there. I feel like Bob Ross. You know, you got to make a happy little streak. A happy little streak on the side of your Starship Enterprise. Okay, see, that's giving me a little, I don't know if that's showing up on camera or not, but it's showing up in my eyeballs, and it's making me excited. So another color that I noticed on a lot of these photographs is a kind of a rust colored. I know we've got the rust ring, but I'm just going to add that in there kind of as a little extra filling. Little extra filling. You got to make your rings all nice and full of excitement. Okay, you got to really be careful and not do too much of this. It's got to be nice and light when you put it on there, because the streaks tend to stay. And I like leaving a little bit of them in there, but not too much. See that? That'll show a bit of a streak. Okay, I'm going to keep doing this until I get it the level that I want, and then I'll turn it over to the bottom and work on the bottom a little bit. Okay, I just did something that I didn't really want you to look at until I saw how it turned out, because I'm doing it kind of by eye here. And this is obviously not very straight. I just kind of threw that on there, but it's just a start. It's just a start to give kind of an indication of some sort of structure there. As you can see, now I can rub it in and get a little smoothness in it. And then it just kind of indicates a little bit of a ring going on there, nothing too detailed. And again, it's all eyeballing. You know, this thing is about weathering, so weathering isn't always straight or consistent, it's organic. And I noticed on some of the photos there was some sort of weathering like that around this ring. Now I just put too much on there, but that's okay because it's a little happy accident. That's what we call a little happy accident. And I'm just using green and red, or you know, kind of this rust color right now. And the reason for that is those are really the only colors that I'm picking out on photos that I look at the actual model. It looks like they kind of kept with a simple palette. And again, this underside, you know, it doesn't have to be too much, just enough to kind of give it some indication to your eye that there's some sort of color on here. And that's what I'm doing. Just bringing a little color into it. I'm rubbing it side to side just to kind of get it smoothed in there. And I'm going to try to continue it on a little bit. So I'm going to add a little bit here on that end. I'm taking it past the little supports here. I want to put a little bit more on there to really get it happening. Past the landing legs, that's what I'm trying to say. And as you can see, putting a little bit more on here, just to kind of get a little bit more. And one of the things is I've done this, I've started to do it, I haven't put any kind of sealer coat over the original paint. So the original paint has a little roughness to it, and that really gives me something for this color to sort of sink into a little bit. And again, it's all organic, so you don't have to get too perfect with it. You just want to have some color showing up there. Okay, now I am going to try my hand at a little of this streaking. I'm going to use this, it's a woodless graphite pencil. This is number 3. And again, you just get enough on there in the direction you want, and you smear it. See? It's like a miracle. It's a smear miracle. I love doing this. This is kind of the fun part of it for me. You do it along the edge here, along the edge, and just back. And again, this may or may not look very noticeable on camera, but in person, it just gives an indication that there's somewhere on this thing. And I know a lot of people do kind of a radial wear on it, where they come out this way. That doesn't make any sense to me. To me, it seems like if the ship is hitting something, interstellar gases or whatever, that the streaks are going to be going straight back from the front. So that's what I'm doing. And to me, that's looking pretty exciting. Now, I know that if you look at the different photographs of it, this wear is different colors. So I'm going to add a little of this brown in here. And to be honest with you, that brown across the angle doesn't really do me much good. It doesn't stick as well. So I'm going to try one of these Prismacolor pencils, taking it at an angle, and just see if it adds anything to it. Yeah, that keeps a little structure to it. Now y'all are thinking, why in the world would I do something like this to a nice pretty model?
Well, like I said before, it's all about color. Your eye makes a lot of decisions about things based on color, and makes decisions on what you want to eat. I'm not eating that because it's a weird color. Not that you're going to eat the Enterprise, but you know, it's not like the Enterprise hasn't had things wanting to eat it, so you never know. You might want to eat it. See how that's coming along? It's really giving me some sort of a texture to it, and adding some depth to the whole thing, some history to it. And I don't want to go too crazy with it, but I don't want to go not crazy enough. I gotta have it at least somewhat crazy. I can't have it not crazy enough. Okay, all right, I'm gonna do a little bit more of this, then move back to the top. Okay, I tend to get really worked up by this stuff and not control myself. So what I'm doing is kind of looking at it and saying, this is as far as I want to go, because I'm going to add, you know, decals. I'm going to add all kinds of things to this, and I don't want the weathering to be the number one piece of it. But I think that's a good start. I think that's where I want it to be. And I think that's going to give me a good base for everything else. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to coat it with a sealant, clear sealant, and then that way I can put the decals on it. Okay, I have to say some words of warning. I have never been terrorized by putting on decals before. I've put them on for 60 years now, give or take, and those were terrifying. They're big decals. There's no guidance. There's no grid section to put them on this big surface. And when you lay it down, for some reason or other, oh, that was a bear. Well, there it is. It's got a little of the gloss coating on it right now. I'll go back and put a dull coat on it later. This is what I've been using. It's just the Krylon Color Match Clear, glossy crystal clear. And that seems to, if you put a light coat on it, don't load it down, it seems to seal up all the decals, as you may want to call them. And it does another thing, is when it hits the windows, it kind of frosts them a little bit. I'll probably go over it again with a dull coat just to even everything out. But that was the most terrifying, literally the most terrifying decal application I've ever done. This thing at one point was completely flipped over and crunched up, and oh my goodness, it's a big decal. You don't have any real guidance to go with it. You do get this. When you purchase the decal, you get a little layout that kind of shows the hull and where the placement goes. But when you're in the thick of it, you're in the action, it is not a pleasant thing. I literally have put decals on my whole life and never been terrified like I was this time. I could literally hear myself say, "Bones, what have I done?" And in the background I could hear, "You've done what you've always done. You've taken a death and turned it into a fighting chance to live." Decal-wise, that is. Anyway, this is as far as I'm going to go with it today. I'm going to let this surface dry. What I'm also going to do at some point is I'm going to go in and put a little darkened area here and around the bridge. I noticed that's on the model. I'll do it with the same kind of technique that I used for the weathering. And then I'm going to paint that a dark kind of gunmetal color like the model shows and put the decals on it. And then I'll get to the bottom of it, but I don't want to touch it anymore because I'm traumatized today. That's as far as I can go with it. Okay, so that's the end of part one. I'm going to take a little siesta on working on this and go do some other things. But when I come back and finish the rest of it, I'll show you that and show you how it turned out. Hopefully it'll turn out nice and exciting, because this is all part of my third act stories. See you again next time.